Hey, what's going on, AP World peeps? I am super excited to announce that I am teaching AP World this year, and I will be making videos for every part of the curriculum. In this first video, we'll focus on Period 1, the Paleolithic and Neolithic Revolutions. This is Key Concepts 1.1, Roman numeral 1, letter A through B, and Key Concept 1.2, Roman numeral 1, letters A through D. If you're interested in this PowerPoint or a fill-in-the-blanks video guide that matches up with the video, please follow the link in the description over to apworldreview.com where you can download it all. Let's start off talking about the Paleolithic Era. And the curriculum says archaeological evidence indicates that during the Paleolithic Era, hunter-forager bands, and bands is like a small group of people, of humans gradually migrated from their origin in East Africa to Eurasia, Australia, and the Americas, adapting their technology and cultures to new climate regions. So human origins began in East Africa and pretty much went to every area of the earth. So what is the Paleolithic Era? It is from 2.6 million years ago to about 10,000 years ago, and most humans hunted and gathered food, and they would hunt these giant animals, like this very large animal here with an outer shell that is very tough. So in order to live, humans were hunting and gathering during the Paleolithic Era. Now, it's important to know some tools that humans used during this time. They developed diverse and sophisticated tools such as axe blades that you see here. They also developed sharp knives, spears, bows, and arrows that they would use to hunt for food, and also fire. And fire is very important, not only to do things like cook food and stay warm in cold temperatures. It also was used to keep animals away. It was a defense against animals. Fire could also be used to force prey into enclosed areas where they could then be hunted. And this also encouraged the growth of certain plants by destroying others. Okay, let's talk about living structures. People lived in small groups or bands of roughly 25 to 50 people, and that impacted them in various ways. Socially, males were often the hunters, and they often hunted large animals like woolly mammoths, pictured here, that became extinct thousands of years ago. Females were often the gatherers. They would gather things like nuts and fruits, and they often were egalitarian societies. And when you see this word egalitarian, make sure you know it. This means that it pretty much was an equal society. Nobody was above another person when it comes to social class orders. Everybody is pretty much treated equally. The life expectancy was about 35-ish, so I'd be dead. I'm 36, so sorry. And economically, they worked fewer hours than their Neolithic counterparts, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, and bands would often trade goods with each other. So these bands did not live in isolation 100% of the time. They often interacted with each other and traded goods. So politically, there were no chiefs or kings. So later in the year, we'll learn about this dude, Louis XIV. He would not have existed in the Paleolithic Era because there were no chiefs or kings. Bands had rules about sharing food, and leaders would rise during times, especially if there was conflict with a neighboring band, but they did not have permanent power. This power would go away once there was peace or less tensions. And people's ideas and goods were exchanged between these groups. It's very important to know that bands did exchange people, ideas, and goods between each other. Okay, let's jump over to the Neolithic Revolution. So around 10,000 years ago, some humans began to domesticate plants and animals. And that's what we mean by the Neolithic Revolution, the domestication of plants and animals. And this will lead to communities, civilizations, and new economic and social systems, which will really be the focus of the rest of Period 1. So why and where did permanent villages develop? So possibly due to climate change. The last ice age was about 16,000 to 10,000 years ago. Once that goes away, more fertile land became available, which was more favorable to farming. In order to understand where this happened, I encourage you to take a look at my video guide for this that has a world map, and I encourage you to label the different regions and things that were grown in these regions. So we have Mesopotamia, the Nile River Valley, that's located in Egypt. Mesopotamia, by the way, that is in present-day Iraq. Sub-Saharan Africa, the Indus River Valley in India, the Yellow River Valley in China, Papua New Guinea, and Mesoamerica. And finally, the Andes. And these are the regions we're going to focus on. Okay, so domestication of plants and animals. In Mesopotamia, you have wheat and barley. You also have goats, sheep, and cattle that were domesticated. And this is where you begin to see permanent civilizations develop. In the Nile River Valley, you see wild grains, gourds, watermelon, and cattle. In this ancient Egyptian painting, you can see cattle pictured here as playing a very important role in society. And in Sub-Saharan Africa, you have sorghum, which is a type of wheat. Over in the Indus River Valley, you have wheat, barley, cattle, sheep, and goats. So you're seeing a trend here of similar plants and animals that are domesticated in different areas of the world. In the Yellow River Valley, you have millet and soybeans, pigs and chicken as well. And in Papua New Guinea, you have bananas, sugarcane, and yam. And sugarcane is going to be very hard, difficult labor in order to grow. In Mesoamerica, you have maize or corn, peppers, beans, and tomatoes, and those still play a very large part of the diet today in that area. And in the Andes Mountains along the west coast of South America, you have beans, alpacas, and llamas that are domesticated. So pastoralism, we'll talk more about this in the next video, but what is it? It is raising animals and moving them from one grazing area to another. So you see these dudes here packing up with this cattle. They are moving on to another area to graze. So this developed in Africa and Eurasia, and it affected the environment because grass in certain areas would be destroyed from too much grazing. And pastoralists also helped spread goods and ideas. We'll talk about this in a future video, but this is a great example of cultural diffusion. A lot of ideas will be spread between cultures as a result of pastoralism, these people moving around with animals. Okay, so what are the agricultural communities' impacts on the environment? Well, looking at this picture, we could see that fire is being used to destroy some parts of land, and that's known as slash and burn cultivation. Trees would be burned to produce fertile soil, and this process would be repeated in a new year after a few years to get lots of nutrients in the soil to grow new crops. And fields would be cleared to grow crops. So you would see the destruction of lots of trees as a result of this. Also, irrigation developed to grow crops. And irrigation is bringing water from a source far away to the farmland to grow crops. Okay, we'll finish up the video with a quick recap. Human origins in East Africa, know that, and it spread to virtually every other area of the world. There were different tools used by humans, including fire, be able to identify and explain them. How bands impacted human life during the Paleolithic Age, what was the Neolithic Revolution, and what were specific plants and animals that were domesticated in each of those regions we talked about. Again, I really encourage you to work on that map that goes along with this video guide. Pastoralism, what is it and how did it impact the environment? And what were the impacts of agricultural communities on the environment? All right, guys, look forward to seeing you back here for video number 2, agricultural and pastoralism's impact on human societies. We're going to talk about how it affected humans. Look forward to spending some time with you this year. I hope you find these videos helpful. Best of luck. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.